In the previous video, we built a frequency distribution and a relative frequency distribution based off of our quantitative variable, annual income. Now we're going to look at how we might visualize that data. So when we were working with our qualitative variable of state, we had a frequency table and we built a bar chart out of it. Similarly, here with our frequency distribution, we're going to go ahead and build what is nearly the equivalent. We're going to build a histogram. Now, there are a couple ways to build a histogram in Excel, and we'll walk through both of them. The first being based out of this frequency distribution. The second, we can actually use a pretty powerful tool that can be added to Excel, and so we'll use this as a reason to introduce that. So, working off of our frequency distribution here, it is again a little cumbersome to build charts in Excel, and perhaps there's a more straightforward way to do it. But let's just get a chart on the board, a bar chart, and we'll go in and manipulate this. So I'm going to click in here and select the data, and I want to I'm going to grab, for my axis labels, I'm just going to grab these bin values here. And that's going to give me one way to kind of express the values along the x-axis. The second thing I want to do is figure out which of these is the one I want. That is it. Okay, so I wanted to take away. I had a second series there. So now I have just the frequency of the different bin sizes, or the different bins, and then I got to go a little bit longer. So remember, or a few more steps here. So remember, we want to remove that spacing. Is one of the big differences visually between a histogram and a bar chart, in that we want to remind the reader that there is no real space between our bins. And maybe we don't want to fully do that. Actually, I think what I'll do is I should be able to add in, on the border here, I'm going to add in a solid line. Maybe I'll make it a little thicker. And that way I at least can see. That helps me out a little bit visually. But here now we have, we can add some axis titles. And what are we actually talking about here? We might just call this, again, we could say number of customers and annual income. And we'll want to make sure we're talking in thousands of dollars. And we probably don't need that in there. And lastly, annual income. And yeah, we can there's maybe a better way to reference that, but just to get something up there so we know what this chart is talking about. And there we have it. We have a histogram. Again, we'll talk in a future video some of the ways we can clean this up, make it a little more legible. Obviously, some of that is just going to be changing font sizes. Excel loves the font 9, font size 9 on things. Maybe it's my old age, but some of those types of things. But there we have it. We have a histogram. Now, I mentioned there's another way to go ahead and do this, and that's going to use something called the Data Analysis Tool Pack. And this is going to come up time and time again when we turn to Excel, because as we've seen, some of this is a little cumbersome. And Excel is not just a data analysis program, and it's far from it. It's used widely across all kinds of functions. And so because of that, some of the stuff is not, some of the statistical tools are not kind of the default way that Excel does it. So there have been some, there's a tool pack that is able to be put into Excel here. And so if you don't have this, and most of you probably don't, it doesn't come standard. It's in the data tab. And so way over here on the right, I have this thing called data analysis. So if you don't see that, and again, the default is you probably don't, it's very quick to install. So I'm going to do that. So it's just if you go into File, down at the bottom, there's an Options. And I want to take that off. Okay, so down here, there's something called Add-ins. And if you go into that, one of the so down here at the bottom, Manage, you want to select Excel Add-ins, click Go, and that should pop up these, although I'm not sure if all 4 of these are default or if there's a chance I've added some of these, but Analysis Tool Pack should be there, and you just need to click and turn it on. So it actually gets downloaded with your Excel program, it just doesn't get added directly. So click that box, check it as yes, click OK, and now when you go back up to data, it should pop up. Now, if you are using the remote desktop, I'm blanking on the term for it, but if you're using the remote desktop into Hamlin there, you will likely have to add this every time in. So every time those computers restart, they basically wipe clean, and that includes kind of wiping anything that was added in Excel as well. So you will probably have to become familiar with that if that's the case. But on your home computer, if you have just put it on there now, it should remain there. So now that we have that installed, we can go up into that. Let me actually, I'm just gonna, what do I want? I think I want this. Do I want this? I think I want this. So I'm gonna just copy this, my bins down here. Just we could have used that same thing, but this way it'll all be in one area. So I'm gonna go into data analysis. You can see I was just doing it, but there's a whole host of things that we'll come back to. Most notably descriptive statistics. So in the next chapter, we'll use this quite a bit. But you can see there's a whole host of things. But we are looking for the histogram. So I'm going to click into histogram. It's going to bring up a menu here. Again, I was testing it out. So input range, I need to put in my data. Okay, so here we can actually go directly from our data. Remember, without this, we had to build the frequency distribution and table. So this is actually a way to skip having to build the frequency tables. My bin range, I could have used the one up there. I'm going to go ahead and grab down here. Okay, I want, I didn't bring with labels, so I'm not going to click that. So if I would have grabbed annual income, which maybe I should have, then I would want to click that. Output range, we could make it happen in a new workbook. But let's go ahead and just have it come down here. And then I want to make sure if I want my histogram, so if I don't choose histogram, it's just going to give me a frequency distribution. But I would like the histogram. So I'm going to click chart output, and then that should be good. Let me click OK. Did not yell at me, so that's a good sign. And now it has spit out a histogram for me. Much quicker than what we just walked through. Still going to have to or want to do a little bit of cleaning up, right? So same type of thing. Probably want to take those away, maybe draw the line in between, help our eyes out a little bit. And clean up some of this stuff. I don't need frequency taking up space. I want to rename this from bin to, actually, let me double check something. I might be able to. I want this as like annual income. Okay, that didn't update. But if I change these, now here's where this is pretty helpful. I can do 40 to 60. I could do you know, less than 60. I can change these to anything I want, and it's going to update in my histogram. So maybe I want 40 to 60, 60 to 80, and so on. I can get rid of this more. Yeah, so a quick way to get a histogram up on the board. That's not what I want there. I can rename this as annual income. Thousands of dollars. Okay, so 2 ways to get a histogram up and going. In both cases, it's going to take a little time to clean it up. Yeah, so that hopefully gets you a start on building histograms and your first introduction to the data analysis tool pack.